Here we've got a box of Bants, and I'm here with not anymore the youngest Irish professional in Ireland, female Irish professional, but now I've got WBC Youth, WBF, and WIBA world champion, and then I have a trainer, Mr. Niall Barrett. How are you both?
Fantastic. Feel great, to be honest.
Yeah.
Well, how are you?
Yeah, really, really good. Thanks, Kieran, for having us on.
You're probably delighted, Niall, to have time away from the gym.
Not so much a gym, just away from Katelynn, really. Like.
You see what I have to deal with every day now.
No, yeah, it's hard. It's actually really, really hard. Like given context to the interview, we just got the announcements of the level 5 lockdown last night, which is closing down businesses all around the country, including the gym. Like, so I have to stay away from it for a few days because I've been away in Germany. Yeah, there's only 2 more days of the gym, and it's not there for 6 weeks. Like, so it's quite difficult. I want to go down there right now and just squeeze in the last few classes if I can, but I'm not allowed, unfortunately. But elite athletes are allowed to train legally throughout that. So Katelynn and stuff will be back in the gym soon, and obviously Gary, and there's a few others as well. So we'll be okay. We'll get by. Yeah,
that's it. That's interesting because I was wondering, how it was going to affect you in the gym, but at least you are still working with the athletes. But for you, do you prefer working with athletes in terms of the challenges that it has?
People always ask me, like, is it really, really hard to work with Gary and Katelynn and stuff? And it's the more elite the athlete, the actual easier it is to work with. You know what I mean? Because there's things that I can ask them to do and they can just do it straight away. Whereas then, like, I train the guys normally around 11 o'clock in the morning is their first session, and then they'll do their second session around 5 or 6. And then I might try to do some of the skill work that they were doing in my boxing class in the evening. And I'm like, how come the guys can't get it in the class? And it dawns me that, like, obviously I'm working with elite athletes all the time, that they have, higher levels of functioning and higher levels of athleticism and higher levels of understanding. So, and also higher levels of motivation. Like, I have to throw them out of the gym. I have to, like, on Saturday night after her fight, Katelynn wanted to do around the pads, like, and on the Sunday morning, there's a gym that we could see from our hotel. She wanted to go to the gym. And then the Monday, she's like, can I come in today? I'm like, no. So, and it's the same. I literally have to kick Gary Cuddy out of the gym. Like, I can't get him out of the gym. So they're easy to work with. They're so easy to work with.
Well, you'd be surprised now. Not all boxers in this country are like that.
No, and I know that. And look, just being honest, I wouldn't waste my time. Like, you know what I mean? I can't want it more than Katelynn or Gary. You know what I mean? And if I ever do, that's a big problem. Like, so, obviously everyone goes through times kind of in their life when maybe they're not as motivated to be in the gym, or they could have personal problems where they can't be in the gym, and that's completely fine. I'll always support the guys, but I'll never, ever, ever be dragging them out of their house to come to the gym a week before a fight. Like, if they don't want to do it, that's no problem. Like, but that's not my job as a coach. And I'm thankful I don't have that issue with the people I'm blessed to be working with.
There must be something in the water in Kildare or something like that, but I'm sure you will come across someone like that. Barry Jones I don't want to delve too much into this, but Barry Jones made the good point before. He said that there's a difference between a full-time athlete and a professional boxer. You would think that a professional boxer is a full-time athlete, but it's usually a professional boxer in his time was you're fit for 10 weeks, 4 times a year, whatever it is, 3 times a year, and then you're a full-time bin basically then for the rest.
Yeah.
So yeah, you're lucky in that.
And even look, there's a lot of people that are professional boxers in title only and not in action. You know what I mean? Whereas there's a lot of amateur boxers that are professional in action and not in title. So I'd rather the person that's professional in their actions and not just on their Instagram bio.
So first of all, since the fight on Saturday, Katelynn, has your feet touched the ground yet? Like, what's it been like?
It still hasn't really hit me yet. Like, I keep looking at the belts. I'm sitting there staring at them. I'm like, I've done this. Like, these are mine, and I've worked so hard for this, and it just hasn't fully hit me. It's like everyone's texting me, still wishing me like congratulations and stuff like that. And it's unbelievable. It's so overwhelming. It's great.
And I imagine your phone hasn't stopped hopping, has it, since?
Honestly, no, I actually hasn't. I've gone up so many followers on Twitter and Instagram and even Facebook, and the amount of texts and messages that I've been replying to, I've been doing 20 minutes and then I have to stop, take a break, get a cup of tea or something, and go back another 20 minutes. And it's amazing the amount of support I'm after getting.
Since the fight, what have you been doing since the fight? So I think you spent a day in Germany after, didn't you? And then you came home. Is that right?
Yeah, so we spent the Sunday in Germany. We went for a stroll around, had a look around the town. I finally got some pizza, which was amazing. We went on the hunt for some pizza, so it was great. And then I've just been, like I said, replying to messages, doing some interviews, and just showing my belts off.
Was the story of Mike Tyson? Oh, sorry, can you hear me there? Or is any?
Yeah, I can hear you.
I just said it was a bit unstable there. But that story of Mike Tyson when he won his first belt, and he said he walked to the shops with the belt around his waist, so everyone could see it. Like, in terms of the fight itself, Niall, it's if we just rewind back to before, now the fight was originally scheduled for September, and it was someone else that obviously Jessica Shacko was supposed to fight. But am I right in saying you kind of had a knowledge that it was a very good chance Katelynn was going to be called up to the fight if someone dropped out, and you were keeping her fit for the fight? Is that right?
Yeah, we had seen that Jessica Shacko was mandated to fight for 3 titles, and the one that kind of really piqued her interest was the WBC Youth World title. So to fight for that, you have to be below 24, so which is a very, very small category of professional female boxers in and around that weight category. So we looked through the world rankings at lightweight, at light welterweight, and at light middleweight, and we only really could find about 10 boxers in the world that were eligible for the title, because you have to be below 24. So we were saying that there was only about 10 people that were eligible, and then of those 10, about 7 were from either India or Mexico. So they're obviously out because of the pandemic. So it left about 3 boxers which were eligible. One is a really, really tall southpaw, which, look, if you have the chance to fight, you're not going to. So that left one of 2 people, which was Katelynn Phelan, and then another girl called Valentina Carey. But her record is 4 wins and 5 losses. So we weren't really too sure if she was eligible for the title. So even though they did put her down as the first name, but I don't know, I just had the feeling that a 4-5 record wouldn't be passed by those sanctioning bodies. So kind of basically we sat down and we said, look, you're going to get offered this, but you're only going to get offered it about 3 weeks before the fight. So if you want to win this, we have to go 100% in, all in training camp now, about 10 weeks out, which is really hard to do. Like, you know what I mean? To say you have to train for a fight that might not come off, but you can't half train whatsoever. If you're in, you're all in. Like, so I remember saying this to Katelynn. I put it all down to her and I said, look, take the weekend and text me, but if you're in, you're in, and if you're not in, we're not taking it if they're going to give us 3 weeks notice. And I told her to take about 3 days and think about it, and I think about that night or maybe the next morning I got a message saying I'm all in, and once she confirmed that she was all in, we went for it, and yeah, we trained as if we were going to get offered it, knowing that at a certain point we get the offer. And then one day she just texted me and it was the screenshot saying, would you like to fight Jessica Shacko? So thankfully it worked out.
What was the only thing, Katelynn, in your mind that could have possibly put you off going and doing that? Like, were you pretty much, when he put that to you, were you thinking, yeah, like I don't really have to think about it. I think I'm pretty much going to do it. Or what was your mindset thinking about that?
I knew literally straight away, as soon as Niall gave me that option and we had that conversation, I knew straight away, I knew I wanted it. And I knew that with his training, like his training schedules and things like that, I knew that I'd get it and I would become the world champion. And I just had that little bit of trust and a bit of faith, and we went for it and haven't looked back. So,
you know, it's funny because it's very common for Irish fighters. You know, when you get to a certain point now, not necessarily just in your position, but there's Irish fighters that have won Irish titles, even like Luke Keeler, who didn't have massive backing behind them, and you know, you become part of like the Who Needs Some club, where you have to go abroad to Sky Sports, whatever, and take an opportunity that's given to you. And one of the biggest issues they have, especially it's happened to Craig O'Brien recently and stuff, where you're given a fight 3 weeks notice, 4 weeks notice, and you know you're only training for those few weeks, but you have to take the opportunity. Niall, was that something you were very aware of, that Katelynn, for her to get a big opportunity, she was going to have to be opponent abroad? And was in your mindset thinking like, I have to make sure that I get her on board to do an actual camp, even though she's not guaranteed the fight?
No, because there's no rush whatsoever with Katelynn. Like, we kind of sat down and we said, look, if you want to take this slow, if you want to take 3 years, I don't mind. But once we are both on the same hymn sheet, because if Katelynn wants to slow down, but I want to speed up, that's kind of where obviously conflicts happen, isn't it? Like, it's the same in any relationship, really. Like, if one person wants to go 100 miles an hour and the other person wants to stay casual, that's going to be an issue. So if Katelynn didn't want this fight, that wouldn't have mattered to me whatsoever. Like, I wouldn't have forced it, because as I said, she has to want it more. But I did kind of make it clear, like, you're either 100% in or you're 100% out. Like, there's no, sure, we'll train and we'll see, and then if they offer it, then we'll see. Like, that's not an option, because I knew they were only going to give us 3 weeks, and originally they did only give us 3 weeks. Like, we were totally right on that. And you can't have to do these things. It's that whole thing of just burn your bridges, just go for it, like, go all in. But as I said, if Katelynn had said, look, I'm only 20, I'd like to slow down a little bit, get to maybe 10-0, and then I'll see, that's totally fine with me. But it's actually the other way around. It's me trying to hold her back and her wanting to rush ahead now and keep going. So my job really is, with Katelynn and with Barry as well, just to kind of hold the reins a little bit on them, and then let them go.
So Katelynn, am I right in saying then that you've been training technically for this fight since July, pretty much, because obviously it got cancelled, postponed? So would that make it that your camp kind of started in July? Is that right?
yes, so pretty much camp, it would have been the end of July, and around that time, and that's when we kind of made the decision. But I just love being in the gym. I love training. Like Niall said, he had to literally force me away from the gym this week, and I just love it that much that it didn't really matter about being in camp for that long, because I was enjoying every moment of it, and I just love pushing myself to new limits and having new challenges, which that's why we took this fight, and we knew it would be a challenge, so that's why I knew it would be great to have the opportunity to take it.
In your mindset, was the postponement a positive thing for both of you? Like, was it a benefit to you, or kind of like when it happened, were you kind of ready to fight anyway already? But was there pros or cons to the postponed? I'll ask Katelynn first.
So, like, we were ready for that fight at the time, and I would have won that time as well. But then having the postponement and having them few weeks to just sharpen up even more, add up the 1%, look at the strengths and weaknesses again of both boxers, and just make everything even better than it was. And that's exactly what we done. We had everything on point, and everything was at 101%, and we left no stone unturned, no matter what. So.
And Niall, would you be echoing that?
Yeah, 100%. Look, if the fight had gone in September 5th, she would have won. But we had kind of stumbled upon a couple of things towards the last 2 weeks of training camp. So specifically, one of Katelynn's training partners, he's one of my kids, called Arius. And and the work that they were doing together. So Arias sat down and he watched Jessica Shako, and he mimicked her style. Like he's been to 2 world championships, 2 European championships, and he mimicked her style like perfectly. So the work that they were doing together for those 2 weeks, I remember thinking, shit, I wish we had have been doing this for 6 weeks. And then when the postponement kicked in, I was like, brilliant, we can keep this rolling. Because it was so specific, you know, he moved like Jessica, he copied her tendencies, and then again just said to Katelynn, look, unfortunately for them, they're going to fight a fitter, faster, stronger Katelynn Phelan than they would have on the 5th of September, and we have all the data to prove that as well. Like her PBs are from the camp leading to September, are now improved in the camp leading to October 17th. Her running times are quicker. Her strength numbers are all better. We added a couple of new skills. We got even better sparring partners then as well. So yeah, it was massive advantage for us and bigger downside for them.
The build up to the fight, the Irish boxing kind of touched on it as well in terms of the build up. You were kind of behind Niall the whole taking down everything on social media. It counted how many punches Jessica was doing. Like, if from a technical perspective, like what information were you looking at and taking up from her, and from what point did you kind of say, like, was it at the 10-week mark where you were like, right, take down everything from your social media?
Yeah, well, look, the advantage to being in the early stage of your career is that, you know what I mean? Like, at a certain point, well, as of today, the cat is out of the bag. You know what I mean? This was kind of our last chance to ever do that. I was like, after this fight, everyone's going to know how good you are. Right now, people don't exactly know how good you are. So let's just take advantage of it, because we can't ever pull that trick again, really, can we? And especially that it's been so publicized that we did pull that trick. So the cat is out of the bag now, so we can't ever do that again. And, you know, there's people further on, like Michael Conlon can never pull that trick. You know what I mean? There's way too much footage out there. So we had one chance to do it, so why not do it? Especially Katelynn's record, you know, 3-0 with no knockouts. But the caliber of opponents she did fight are quite durable, you know what I mean? So they don't sustain many knockouts anyway. So, but if you don't look at that, you just see 3-0 with 0 KOs. And to be honest, I really think that that's literally as far as they went. I don't think they looked any further than that whatsoever. Like, so, and we just took advantage of that. And yeah, we went quiet. No pad work was allowed to be put up whatsoever. She was allowed to put up a little bit of strength work and stuff, because it doesn't really give away too much. Even anytime there was anyone in the gym, it was like, no social media footage of Katelynn can go up. Even Stephen Sharp came down to shoot a little promo thing. We're like, you're not allowed to have any boxing footage whatsoever. And I know it's frustrating for people, and we probably could have built the fight more with promo, but I thought the advantage was worth more than the promo.
Mm-hmm. Do you think, though, judging by our team, do you think with the build-up, do you think they had already kind of overlooked Katelynn anyway? Is that something like, Katelynn, did you feel they had overlooked you before anyway? Like, when you arrived there? Like,
massively. I really think they massively underestimated me for this fight. Like Niall said, I don't reckon they looked into much like my amateur career or any of my opponents' actual records or anything like that, which that was a massive benefit to us. And when we arrived there, we thought they'd be putting like some tricks and scams, trying to mess with our heads or anything like that, but they genuinely weren't. They were honest and they were kind, and they done what they could to help us there. And it just goes to show that some people out there are actually, they are sound, but just have to do their research more.
Yeah, because I did hear that in the end, everything was above board, regulating. There was no funny stuff going on, which was really good to hear, because, like I said before, there's just so many horror stories. Like, I could, you know, I was reading even more in the build-up. Like, to the week, I was reading books from different journalists and boxing and stuff like that. And just some of it was just insane. Like, but in terms of because I was just thinking of the body language and all that of Jessica, and just the little things that I saw, and that's only from literally a few clips and whatnot. It didn't seem like if you did have much up online, it seemed like they were overlooking you anyway. Do you know what I mean? You understand, like what I mean by that?
Mm.
Yeah. The dialogue. Did you have much dialogue? I know she's German, and obviously that's her first language. But did you have any dialogue with her at all in the week?
There was literally nothing. The only time we actually saw each other and had a bit of a head nod and a fist bump was actually at the weigh-ins, and that was the first time I saw her in person, other than her footage online and stuff like that. And then even in the ring or after the fight or anything like that, there was nothing between us. Just a hug, well done, congratulations, and that was it really. And then she just disappeared, like she vanished. So,
so such as boxing, the conveyor belt. Someone drops off and makes something wrong. But Niall, from a technical aspect in the game plan, I know publicly it was talked about the counting the punches and whatnot, but from a technical aspect of what Jessica brought to the table and what Katelynn was bringing up, what was the actual game plan going into the fight?
So Jessica, she's a very, very good boxer. She's sorry, can you hear her? She's technically quite good. She's quite slick. If you try to box her and stand back, like she's quite good. So obviously, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you perfect. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Yeah. So yeah, she's a really, really nice back foot boxer. But she likes to dictate the pace. So that's a key aspect. She wants to control the pace, and she just wants to be very, very high whatsoever. So, we'd gone through her punch stats on certain fights where she only throws about 27 punches a round. Whereas I've seen Katelynn, I have on video, Katelynn throwing 9 punch combinations in sparring, like, you know what I mean? So, we knew that if in total she only throws 270 punches a fight, if we can force her either to throw that amount of punches or to absorb that amount of punches in the first couple of rounds, she'll have a panic attack. And we'd watch. So people talk about watching, fights. There's as much information in the rounds in between the rounds as there is in the rounds. And we watch that a lot. Not just me, Katelynn watches too as well. And we both saw the exact same things. We saw panic in between rounds. We saw a disorganized corner. We saw fighting between the corner in between rounds. And we tried to see, right, how can we elicit that response? Like, what tactics do we have to use to cause panic and disorganization in between the rounds? Whereas when Katelynn was coming back, like, I was with my dad today and he asked me, he said, what were you saying to Katelynn in between the rounds? And I said, why? And she was laughing. So we had a very calm, relaxed corner, and obviously with Mark Kennedy there as well, it's always fun. Whereas her corner was in total disarray, and we just tried to make her corner even more chaotic than the rounds, knowing that that's where the fight would be pulled on the stool, and that's kind of the approach we went in with.
That's crazy you say that, because it just literally sounds like when I interviewed Jamie Moore about when he fought Macklin, literally what you're saying there is almost identical. Macklin wanted to dictate the pace every time he fought. And he says, look, you can't box him. There's no point in you going in and fighting him, because I think he might be a bit stronger than you. Now, that's not the case, obviously, with Katelynn, but he said that he's going to throw his combination, and then when he rests, that's when you go, and he'll try to throw with you. And he says, you're going to force him to fight when he doesn't want to fight. And Macklin said at the end of the fight, he says, literally by the third round, he says he was so tired, there was like a glaze over his eyes. He said he didn't know what was going on. But it was very evident from the very start. Katelynn, were you kind of told to stand in the middle of the ring straight away and basically push her back?
Pressure was the key with this fight, and we knew she wouldn't like the pressure with us. I knew from when we touched gloves, I knew I had this fight and I knew it was mine. She couldn't focus her eyes on me, and she kept looking away and was looking around and things like that. And she just looked like she didn't want to be in the fight. Whereas I do what I normally do. I stare down, have a little bit of a smile, and I was ready to fight in that fight. And from the first punch, I knew I was hurting her. From the first jab I threw, I knew she didn't want it. So that's exactly what I kept doing. I kept throwing punches when I knew she didn't exactly want it, like you said. So that was the best thing we decided, which was pressure and keep going forward no matter what.
Within the what was going on in the ring, it seemed that when she was on the back foot and you're walking her down, you were having your moments where you were kind of throwing first. But a lot of time, which I've kind of seen with you, is obviously, like you said, making her throw when she doesn't want to.
Yeah.
When you were pressuring her and she felt like she had to throw, you were kind of meeting her at the same time. You were kind of, what I've seen you in fights is you were kind of throwing your jab under hers and kind of coming under, and then it was just this rhythmic thing that was happening where she was about to throw. You knew she was going to throw. She knew that you knew she was going to throw, and then she would just throw, and it would just she'd throw, and then you just throw with her, and she'd take the damage, and she'd be like again, and she just kept going into this routine over and over again. Were you just? Did it get to a stage where you just knew exactly what she was going to throw each time?
Yeah, it was predictable that when she threw her jab, the best thing to do, which is what we were practicing, was either block and throw with her or slip and throw, or in and around on those lines. And you could see when she was about to throw her jab, you could see that little flinch before she threw it. And that's like, I had a good corner and they could see that too. So I was just listening to my corner and exactly what they said. And then when she kind of started to know what I was doing, which was block her jab and throw mine at the same time, she would move her head out of the way, which Niall noticed that, and he told me to throw where her head will be, not where her head was. And that's exactly what I done, and it ended up working for the rest of the rounds.
At the end of each round, you could see that you were taking something away from her at the end of each round, and at the end, there was less and less coming back in for each round. And there was times in the end of rounds where you felt like you were going to stop her, like you had her. This kind of debate about and talked about in women's boxing, but do you think in that kind of circumstance, and I ask both of you this, but really there should be 12 3-minute rounds, because you're going to see, like, it feels like when she was pulled out in the sixth, it was kind of taken away from you, the stoppage. Do you know what I mean? Even though it was great that you'd won the fight, there was a stoppage there for you. If there was 3-minute round, you could have stopped her even earlier. How do you feel about that?
If there was 10 or 12 3-minute rounds, I'd be well able for that. And like, I done 3 minutes as amateur. It's extra time to do what you love. Like, I enjoyed that fight so much, and I just enjoy punching and throwing. And if it was longer, even better. So I would enjoy if it was 3 minutes.
What do you think, Niall? Like, I don't know if if you get what I'm saying. Is in each round she was coming in with less and less, and you're thinking, is she going to hang on till the end of the 10th, or is she? Do you know what I mean? Is there going to be a stoppage before then?
Yeah, no, I get you completely, and I understand the debate. I suppose male boxing is a 3-to-1 ratio, whereas female boxing is a 2-to-1 ratio. So 3 minutes and 1 minute rest, whereas females is 2-to-1. So you do have more time, to recover in between rounds, comparatively to what you're actually fighting as well. So yeah, look, if they were to change the rules, we would adapt to that, but at the moment they haven't. So we prepare specifically to what it is. Like, I see a lot of women saying they train 3-minute rounds and they train all these kind of stuff, but we moved all our training to 2-minute rounds towards the end of camp, just to make it specific, because you do naturally slow down over 3-minute rounds. So the goal was, like, we timed all our work on throwing 100 punches in 2 minutes, and that's the pace that we were setting, whereas 100 punches over 3 minutes is a slower pace. So it's more about sprinting rather than, marathon running. So yeah, look, if they changed it, it'd be no problem. Katelynn would have no issues with it whatsoever, and we would adjust our training, but we just kind of work specifically to what's in front of us.
Were you thinking, like, you would have a better view of how the fight was going, but you could see she was really struggling each round to come back out. Were you kind of expecting her to not come out at one stage, or what were you expecting yourself? I'll ask Katelynn first, because you were in there with her. Did you think there was going to be a round that she wasn't going to come out for?
Yeah, so we predicted that it would be like she'd have like a panic attack and she wouldn't want to come out, because the pressure that we do put on her, that she wouldn't be able for it with them underestimating me. I honestly thought that I had her at the end of the 5th round until the referee actually jumped in. She would have been gone at the end of that round, but she ended up actually just quitting after that. So she was getting hurt and she was weakening after each punch, especially my overhand right. I was hurting her a lot with that one and following it up. So she was getting a lot weaker. So
Niall, I'm sure you probably weren't surprised, obviously, that you were talking about the chaos in the corner. I remember actually sitting home watching the tent with my girlfriend. I said, like, I was watching the corner. There must have been about 7 people around her in the corner, and I was thinking, like, and there was literally 2 people holding towels, fanning her. I was like, this girl's dying. I said, this girl dying in the corner. But is that exactly, you were just basically predicting that? Am I right in saying that?
Yeah, look, we publicly stated that that's the result that we thought would happen, and we put our tactics in place to make that happen. Yeah, even if you watch the fight back, if you watch her body language in the corner, I know that the stream is not the best, or the footage is not the best in the world, but she's not sitting upright.
You could see it, like, yeah.
She was folded forward, like, and she's actually out of view, whereas Katelynn was sitting upright. Like, after 10 seconds, she's 100% recovered, and she's able to converse, and we're able to talk about tactics, and she can understand it completely. She was so present and so coherent and articulate with what she was saying back to me, whereas when I watched it back after the 4th round, she was slumped forward with her head down, and again in the 7th round, or the end of the 5th round as well. So to me, there was a really, really good sustained body attack in round 4, where Katelynn was hurting her with a lot of body shots. And I think that's kind of what started the end.
I think that was the round. I think that was round at the end where I thought Katelynn was probably our closest to stopping her. Because remember, I think Katelynn had her in the corner. And
the body shot happened in round 4, and she did push on. But round 5, the last 10 seconds of round 5, Katelynn pushed her with punches along the ropes, over towards the neutral corner, like a sustained, and probably another 10 seconds, and the referee definitely would have had to intervene there. But yeah, round 4 and 5 were quite hurtful, and I watched it back on the Boxing Ireland page, and it doesn't do justice to the power of the punches. Like, every single punch that Katelynn landed was doing damage, was literally moving her back, rocking her head back, the body shots were sinking in more and more, whereas Jessica was thrown in threes, but it was having, they were just catching Katelynn on the gloves, and it had, even if it didn't catch her on the gloves, it would have had no effect whatsoever, whereas the difference really was the power and the assertiveness of Katelynn.
Katelynn, was the ring card boy putting you off at all?
I looked at Niall in the 1st round. We were in the corner. I looked at him. I was like, "Am I imagining that, or did I even get punched?" Like, I didn't actually realize what was going on. But it was like the pot noodle ads, Joe, where the guy practices to be a ring. Yeah. So, but it didn't faze me at all. I was just focused on actually listening to what Niall said, and after watching back on it, it was crazy. Fair play to him, though.
Yeah, my girlfriend was like watching. She was like, "Do you usually have them in boxing matches?" I said, "First time I've seen it." And I was painting in our box club the next morning, and I was explaining to my coach, and he was like, "What?" He was like, "That can't be right." And he watched it over again. He was like, "Fucking hell, yeah, it is ring card boy."
Like, when you think of a ring card boy, you'd expect something like Channing Tatum or something like that, but unfortunately we didn't get that this time.
There was, do you remember when Katie Taylor fought on the Bernard Dunn undercard in the Point Theatre?
Yeah.
I think that was back in like 2007, wasn't it? There was ring card boys then. Back in
and there was that hype about female box. Yeah.
That was 2007, I think. And there was a ring card boy there, and just the poor chap got heckled by the whole Point Theatre. Whereas the Germans were much more respectful.
Yeah. Well, he did all right. Like, I've been ringside for many blunders as well with the women as well. Like one time there was a stoppage in a fight in an MTK show, and one of the ring card guards came out with a round held up for it, and it was actually the wrong round as well. And she walked around, and the boxer had to get up and say, "No, I've stopped him." And then she went to book her back, and she tripped and fell over. So all the crowd were like, "Yeah." No, so I was gonna say, so sorry. After the fight, I'm sure like Leonard was there with you, and of course you were all celebrating and to celebrating to the extent that you could in the current restrictions and whatnot. But Leonard said out straight away that there was 2 people asking him to turn pro, to girls, and there's already been college. Before that college, had you, Leonard, and all that kind of even thought about what was next? Because I know you've spoken.
I always think about what's next and what can come next, and I'm always told just relax, take some time, trust the process, and that's what I'm doing. I'm going to trust in my team, and they know what's best, and we'll have a big plan for what's next. So
there was some talk, you kind of told me about that you wanted to headline a show locally, headline a show in Kildare in, is it Goths? That's right.
Goths, yeah.
And I know that it's a big kind of thing for you locally to do, and I think Eric kind of tried to do it before, and then not through his own fault or anything like that, or the promoters. It was just they weren't too keen on the boxing show. But do you think realistically you could get a show there what's after happening this weekend?
100%. I will headline Goths, and it will be a big show.
Yeah, I'm sure the options are limitless. But Niall, for you as a coach, what would you like to see the next step for Katelynn? Because Katelynn was called out by Summer Lynn, 19-year-old American fighter. Not necessarily from Summer herself, but from her manager. And her manager, if people know, is also a manager for Jessica McCaskill, who's undisputed welterweight champion who fought Katie. And there was a suggestion, there was a suggestion that Summer to fight Katelynn on the undercard of that fight, if they fought, of course.
Yeah, their coach, Rick Ramos, he was the Ring Magazine's Female Coach of the Year last year. He's a really, really intelligent guy, and he's done a great job, obviously, with Jessica McCaskill. And he's had Summer since she was 12 as well, so he's been with her for 7 years. And she's 2-time American junior champion as well, so she's obviously a good pedigree. And he's doing a great job to jump on Katelyn's coattails and ride out that publicity and try to turn it onto his own boxer. So really, really clever. So I respect him. And look, Katelynn has shown that she went to Germany to fight, fighting on the undercard of a Katie Taylor show wouldn't be half as intimidating or daunting as that. So she's shown who she is. So for me, what's next is I'm the one that told Katelynn to relax, because next is kind of the whole question in boxing, and people never really stop to enjoy it. Like, you know what I mean? You're going to have whatever 20, 30 fights in your career. Like, that's only 20 weeks over 10 years where you should actually sit down, slow down, relax, savor the belts. Don't worry about the gym. Don't worry about your weight. Don't worry about your next opponent and tactics, and just enjoy it and be normal, and be Katelynn Phelan the person, not just Katelynn Phelan the boxer. Because as of next week, she's back in the gym. She's going to be sore. She's going to be tired. She's going to be, put through her paces. So take this week and just relax. And because what's going to come next will come next regardless. So just take this week and chill out. Yeah, look, Katelynn, she's still only 20, so there's no rush whatsoever. Like, so we'll look at all the offers that come in, because I'm pretty sure some other continental promoter is going to want to snap up those 3 belts for his own boxer. So I'm sure there'll be 1 or 2 offers from Europe to defend the titles. So we'll look at those, and if they make sense, we'll look at it. If they don't make sense, we'll dictate that. You know what I mean? So we're in a position now where we can dictate our next move. So we'll take home court advantage there where we can.
Yeah, Katelynn, I imagine obviously you were probably delighted that someone called you, because it wasn't too long ago that you were the person looking for a fight. Do you know what I mean? So I'm sure you were happy and flattered by being called out by someone as well, as prestigious. What do you think of that fight in particular? Was it something that you'd be interested in, or?
like Niall said, like we showed everyone that we are willing to fight anyone, anywhere by going to Germany, and that was one of the big risks. So I would love to fight anyone, no matter who they are, what they say they are. I'm just willing to fight, and my whole life I've been willing to fight. So unfortunately, I have to listen to Niall every now and again. Sometimes he speaks sense. So like he said, I'm just going to chill out this week, and then once I'm back to the gym, that's when we go to the drawing board and do up some game plans and see what fights we can take. But of course, it would be a great fight.
Yeah, and look, the great thing about when you win these things is that your name gets put down in other people for the rest of history. Whether it's an Irish title, whatever it is, your name will always be associated with those people. That's why that's why I was doing so much digging over the last week, trying to find all the names so you'd know, So yeah,
that was a good post. That was a really, really good, cool post. So thank you very much for that.
Yeah, really appreciate it a lot.
Yeah, no problem. It's good. It's good for the sport, and I think what's most important is that the more you get built, the more better you do. The more it proves to young females that in boxing and amateur gyms, because every time I'm even training my gym, it's Katie Taylor this, and it's just like Olympics, and it shows that you can turn over at a young age and still be successful in it. So because there's only there's 5 in the country, including yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
And historically, it's been people from white collar boxing along those lines, apart from Katie. So you're kind of the rub against the grain at the moment. So that's one reason why I was so excited when you won on Saturday as well. Because as Leonard said, it's already changing the face of it, because he's already got 2 people asking to turn over.
It's unbelievable. Like, the more females that turn over, the better. It shows that you don't exactly have to go down the route of staying amateur, go to the Olympics, that you can actually have a mind of your own. And if you love like the sport like I do, you can do it. And if you set your mind to something, you can actually achieve it once you train hard and stay dedicated. So
but it's been a great few days. Thank you very much for giving your time, especially so soon after you've been coming home. And I'm really looking forward to what the next step is.
Thank you very much, Kieran. I really appreciate the support, and especially throughout being in Germany and beforehand. It really means a lot to myself and my team that we have the likes of you here helping us and getting the word out. So thank you.
Thanks very much.
No bother. Okay, so I'll see you soon, and Niall, I'm sure I'll see you in a gym Instagram story very soon as well.
Thanks.
Thanks very much.